there was still a point that she didn't have to die, and I wish I could have stopped it.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're discussing the life of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, from her disturbing upbringing to her jaw-dropping arrest to her recent release from prison.
This is really hard to talk about because it took me down a really dark path.
Dee Dee and Gypsy together forever. Gypsy Rose was born to Rod and Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard on July 27, 1991.
Gypsy was born, she was a cute little baby, you know. She was tiny, but healthy and happy. She really looked like me.
Of course, Gypsy's exact birthday would become a subject of debate as she progressed in age. The 17-year-old Rod felt obligated to marry the 24-year-old Dee Dee when she became pregnant.
She got pregnant and being from the South, I guess, I was raised where, you know, you got a girl pregnant and, you know, you got married. There was no other question about what you did.
It didn't take long for Rod to sense that something was off about his new bride, who expressed interest in witchcraft. He wasn't the first one to become wary of Dee Dee. Her family has accused Dee Dee of stealing and possibly starving her mother to death.
I asked her sister, you know, I was like, I hate to ask this, but you think Dee Dee had anything to do with her mom's death? And she, you know, said, now I wonder. That's how evil she was.
With Rod realizing he didn't love Dee Dee, the marriage ended before Gypsy's birth. While Rod didn't immediately exit the picture, distance grew as Dee Dee consumed her daughter's life. From the get-go, Dee Dee insisted that Gypsy suffered from various health problems, including sleep apnea, chromosomal abnormality, and muscular dystrophy.
I remember when Gypsy was 3 or 4 months old, Dee Dee told me she would like stop breathing in her sleep. She had her tested and she has sleep apnea.
It wouldn't be until much later that people realized Dee Dee was the one in need of medical treatment, showing clear signs of Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
When you look at Munchausen's by proxy, you often see that there was an encounter to address a real need with the child. But in doing so, Dee Dee gained attention from having a child that could go blind.
A turning point came when Gypsy was around 7 or 8, getting into a motorcycle accident with her grandfather. It wasn't a serious crash, with Gypsy only enduring a scraped knee. But Dee Dee convinced the doctors to supply a wheelchair that her daughter started to use.
I didn't understand her reasonings, but I trusted her. She was my best friend, and I loved her. And I never questioned as a child.
Dee Dee wasn't the only family member mistreating Gypsy, who accused her grandfather of indecent assault. Rod was never abusive, although Dee Dee led Gypsy and others to believe otherwise. Rod was pushed further away as Dee Dee moved with Gypsy to New Orleans. Dee Dee's relationship with her family had also grown strained with accusations of poisoning her stepmother.
She was putting some poison in my food, the same thing she had put in the plant.
And she wound up, she stayed 9 months in bed. After that, she couldn't get up. I didn't think she was gonna make it.
While Rod continued to support Dee Dee financially, he remained oblivious to her faking Gypsy's illnesses. Although doctors found nothing wrong with Gypsy, Dee Dee regularly subjected her to ER visits and surgeries, most notably receiving a feeding tube.
We find feeding tubes such a common aspect of Munchausen syndrome by proxy because a feeding tube gives a parent almost unlimited control.
Dee Dee pumped her daughter full of unnecessary medications, causing Gypsy to develop a substance use disorder. Leukemia, asthma, and seizures are just some of the other conditions that Dee Dee claimed to be ailing Gypsy.
Dee Dee was pretty clear that Gypsy had a history of cancer, asthma, some sort of muscular disorder.
Aside from a slight lazy eye, though, there was little wrong with Gypsy, who trusted her mother nonetheless. Hurricane Katrina left Dee Dee and Gypsy without a home. Conveniently for Dee Dee, Gypsy's medical records and birth certificate were lost.
Dee Dee didn't have the medical records. She said they're gone because it was chaos down in New Orleans right after Katrina. So Dee Dee became the sole place for information.
The two eventually relocated to Springfield, Missouri, where Habitat for Humanity built them a home. Dee Dee deceived several other high-profile organizations, including Ronald McDonald House Charities and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Dee Dee lied about Gypsy's age and mental growth as well, a delusion supported by her height, lack of teeth, and high-pitched voice.
The way that Gypsy acted, wearing princess dresses, the way she talked, the things that she referenced that she liked to do, were like a kindergartner.
Although Rod attempted to reach out with his new wife, Christy, Dee Dee kept them away and in the dark. Among the few who suspected something to be off was Dr. Bernardo Flasterstein, but there wasn't enough evidence to get social services involved.
Been asked many times, why didn't I report it to family services? You cannot call family service for a suspicion. You have to have it proven that the mom is making it up.
Gypsy would take matters into her own hands. An imperfect murder. Slowly but surely, Gypsy came to accept that her caregiver was lying about her health and age. When Gypsy was 19, not 15 as her mother claimed, she attempted to run away with a guy named Dan, whom she met at a sci-fi convention.
We both went to this sci-fi fantasy convention called VisionCon. I had told him vaguely about what was going on at home. And he told me, you just pack your stuff and you can come live with me.
It didn't take long for Dee Dee to track down Gypsy, convincing her to come home. Upon returning, Dee Dee destroyed Gypsy's computer and phone before handcuffing and leashing her to a bed for 2 weeks.
She took me back home and smashed my computer with a hammer, smashed my cell phone with a hammer, and said, if you ever try to do that again, I'm gonna smash your fingers with a hammer.
Dee Dee buried photos of Gypsy and Dan in a mason jar along with a cow tongue and her daughter's period blood. Putting a hex on Gypsy, Dee Dee allegedly told her, quote, "You will never find love. You will never be happy."
I just think it's true because it's like every time I get close to someone, they leave me.
Struggling to escape, Gypsy saw murder as the only way out. Gypsy recalls attempting to shoot her mother, but she didn't realize until after pulling the trigger that it was just a BB gun. Unable to do the deed herself, Gypsy turned to her boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn. Gypsy met Godejohn online, coming to view him as her Prince Charming.
2 weeks after first communicating, did we make it official on Facebook that we're in a relationship. And again, I was in that mindset that, oh, this is my knight in shining armor.
An ex-girlfriend of Godejohn attempted to warn Gypsy otherwise. There were other warning signs, such as Godejohn's dark fantasies and claims of having a murderous alternate personality.
His multiple personalities would come out, and he had talked to me one day, and he was just like, I would like my other personalities to have a girlfriend.
Regardless, Gypsy attempted to introduce Godejohn to her mother at a 2015 screening of Cinderella. Dee Dee wanted nothing to do with Godejohn, who claims that he had sex with Gypsy in the theater bathroom.
She despised him. She was like, he's creepy, he's weird, he's coming to see a kid's movie alone by himself. And now looking back on it, yeah, it is weird.
Godejohn agreed to murder Dee Dee with a knife that Gypsy stole from a Walmart. Gypsy would make a video instructing Godejohn on how to commit the murder.
I made a video for Nick that's kind of like a walkthrough of what the house layout looked like.
One night in June 2015, Gypsy professed her love to her mother before bed. After Godejohn arrived via taxi, Gypsy curled up in the bathroom while her boyfriend stabbed Dee Dee 17 times.
There was one sharp scream and then it was over. It was silence. I didn't hear anything.
Godejohn wanted to fulfill a depraved sexual fantasy with Dee Dee before murdering her. Gypsy convinced him not to, suggesting that they have sex instead. Although the two subsequently engaged in intercourse, Gypsy didn't view it as consensual. They fled to Godejohn's home in Wisconsin via bus, mailing the murder weapon to his family's house.
I'm in a state of shock where I didn't believe any of that happened. That was my frame of mind.
In addition to being spotted by numerous witnesses, Gypsy made the misguided decision to post about the crime on Facebook.
Startlingly, it was Gypsy who went online to announce, that bitch is dead.
Dee Dee's body was discovered about 5 days after the murder, with the authorities soon tracing the Facebook post's IP address to Godejohn's house, where the runaway couple was arrested.
I panic. I'm like, oh, what are we gonna do?
As neighbors mourned Dee Dee and feared for Gypsy's life, the police uncovered the truth. Seeing Gypsy walk into a courtroom, everything the public thought they knew about the Blanchards unraveled.
You can see Gypsy for yourself walking into court.
It was like a chill went down your spine. There was a collective gasp or collective like, whoa!
Gypsy, you're free. Although many would call this premeditated murder, the case was anything but conventional.
I felt in my heart just this overwhelming sadness and guilt and being ashamed of the actions that I took to make this be a reality.
As such, the prosecution chose not to pursue the death penalty. It was also decided that Godejohn and Gypsy should be tried separately, since the latter had been abused for most of her life. As part of Godejohn's defense at trial, his lawyers cited his low average IQ, autism, and extreme love for Gypsy as reasons for his actions. It didn't work. Godejohn received a life sentence, while Gypsy was sentenced to 10 years after taking a plea bargain.
How do you plead to the Class A felony of murder in the second degree?
Guilty.
The court finds that there is a factual basis for a plea of guilty. Court accepts defendant's plea of guilty and finds defendant guilty thereof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Gypsy went from one prison to another, with her substance use disorder escalating. Yet Gypsy described her first day in prison as her, quote, best memory, finally feeling free from her mother's grasp.
I'm free. I'm free to have friends. I'm free to do what I want. I might be in a controlled environment, but this is nice.
Since then, Gypsy has reconnected with her father while forming new relationships. Gypsy became engaged to a man named Ken after he watched the documentary Mommy, Dead and Dearest. Their engagement crumbled once Gypsy's story was dramatized in the Emmy-winning miniseries The Act.
That girl, she is stronger than she looks. I'm lucky to be her mom. I was born to be her mom.
Gypsy has yet to see the show, which she didn't consult on or receive payment for. The act led to Gypsy blowing up on social media, bringing unwanted attention that Ken couldn't handle. Gypsy found another fiancé in a Louisiana teacher named Ryan Scott Anderson.
We had this connection that it seemed so seamless, so easy. This is something I never thought that I would have after everything that has happened.
The two almost called it off after Anderson learned that Gypsy had lied about still being in contact with Ken. The couple nevertheless tied the knot on June 27, 2022, although they considered getting an annulment following an argument. They've since decided to work through their differences.
The man I came to call my best friend, I now call husband. With all that life has to offer us, I vow to be yours. I love you with all of my heart and soul. Your wife, Gypsy Rose Anderson.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Godejohn's legal team is currently seeking a new appeal. Meanwhile, Gypsy was released on December 28, 2023, being paroled after serving 8 years.
The car is moving. Oh my God.
Yeah, baby, we're out. We're out.
Oh, it feels so weird being in a car.
She's opened up through her book, Conversations on the Eve of Freedom, and gained a substantial online following. In an era dominated by true crime content, Gypsy's story is one that's kept the public coming back for nearly a decade.
You're trending on TikTok, people saying things like, I'm tipsy for Gypsy. How do you explain this?
I honestly, I don't know myself. I consider myself just a normal woman, but I think maybe my story resonates with a lot of people.
Part of that's because of how many people the mother-daughter pair fooled, how long their ruse lasted, and how their relationship ultimately exploded. Gypsy's story didn't end there, and it's still unfolding.
I share my story to be a cautionary tale.
As Gypsy learned the hard way, there are no fairy tale endings. On the heels of abuse, murder, and incarceration, though, has the 32-year-old Gypsy Rose Blanchard reached a point of closure? What do you think is next for Gypsy Rose Blanchard? Let us know in the comments.
All I can do is be myself, put myself out there and in the truest form. I'm not setting out to manipulate anyone. I'm just myself.